This IEM doesn't hit you with bass, it wins you over with clarity, soundstage and imaging. The more I used it, the more I liked it. Keep watching and I'll tell you why. I have been using the TANCHJIM Bunny DSP for quite some time now, testing it with music, movies, YouTube, calls and even several BGMI matches. And while I really enjoyed some aspects of it, there are a few things you should know before buying it. So let's get into it. Hi there, I am Abhijit and you're watching TechNutso. Before we get into the experience, here are some important specs. You get a dual chamber DMT4 ultra dynamic driver, a built-in 24-bit DAC with DSP, USB-C connectivity, a silver-plated oxygen-free copper cable, an inline microphone, and a one-button controller. The Bunny also comes with customizable EQ through the TANCHJIM app, along with the official and community-created presets. Starting with the unboxing experience, TANCHJIM has kept the packaging pretty minimal. On the front, you get a printed illustration of the bunny shell, while the TANCHJIM Bunny branding is present on both sides. The specification and other details are printed on the back. Inside, you get the IEMs with a pair of ear tips already installed. You also get two additional sets of ear tips with 3 pairs each. One set has a narrower bore and the other has a wider bore. So you have some flexibility to experiment with the fit and sound. Apart from that, there's some paperwork and a really good looking fabric carry pouch with the TANCHJIM branding. It's a simple package, but everything you need to get started is included, and I particularly like the look of that fabric pouch. When it comes to comfort, the Bunny has been really good for me. IEM shells are lightweight and I have used them for longer listening sessions without experiencing any fatigue. The ergonomic bunny inspired design also helps them sit comfortably in my ears. The fit is quite secure as well. Once inserted, they stay in place and don't randomly fall out. What I particularly like is that they are secure without putting unnecessary pressure on my ears. So, even during longer listening sessions, I never felt the need to take them out because of discomfort. As for isolation, some background noise is slightly audible when the music is paused, but once you start playing music, it isn't really noticeable. So overall, the Bunny is comfortable, lightweight and secure, and I would have no problem using it for several hours at a stretch. Now let's talk about the biggest reason to consider the USB-C version of the Bunny. It comes with an inbuilt DAC with DSP, supporting up to 24-bit audio, and the DSP processing does make the audio feel cleaner and more immersive. I primarily used the Bunny with my Galaxy Z Fold 7 and my overall experience was pretty smooth. I didn't run into any bugs while using the app, although I do feel the app could be a little faster and more responsive. There are 5 official EQ presets, and out of those, I kept coming back to the default preset because I really like the way it's tuned. There's also a game EQ which I tried while playing BGMI, but I couldn't notice any meaningful difference in my gaming experience. Then there's the EQ forum, which I actually found quite interesting. You can browse and apply EQ presets uploaded by the audiophiles in the community, and some of these presets genuinely make a noticeable difference to the sound. You can also upload and share your own presets. And if you want complete control, there's an EQ customize option where you can tune the sound according to your preference. But this is one area where I think TANCHJIM could improve the app. Instead of simply sliding the frequency bands up and down or moving points around on a graph, you have to manually enter the values. And honestly, that feels like a bit of chore when you're trying to experiment with different EQ settings. I would much rather see a proper graphical EQ where I can simply move the frequency bands around. The My Audiophile app, for example, makes this much easier with its PQ interface, where you can simply slide the frequency bands up and down. There's also a microphone gain setting, which I found quite handy, especially since the Bunny has an inline microphone. But there's one major catch with the DSP and app. The TANCHJIM app and DSP features are limited to Android and Windows. So, if you're an iPhone, iPad, or Mac user, you're left out of the app-based customization. And that's something you definitely need to keep in mind before buying the Bunny DSP, especially if you're deep into the Apple ecosystem. Now let's get into what matters the most with an IEM. How does it actually sound? With the EQ set to flat, the first thing I notice is that the low end isn't extremely punchy, but it definitely isn't weak either. When the right beat drops, you hear it, you don't miss it. But the amount of bass you get really depends on the track you're listening to. Some songs have enough low end presence to make the Bunny sound really satisfying, while others can feel a little restrained if you're looking for that deep, thumpy bass. The mids are definitely the star of the show here. Vocals feel forward and very clear, while the highs support the mids and low end really well without taking over. And then there's the soundstage. The soundstage feels surprisingly wide. There's enough room for the lows, mids and highs to breathe and everything feels nicely separated. But what really impressed me was the combination of soundstage and imaging. While listening to one of my tracks, I genuinely felt like the singer was standing right in front of me. almost like I was sitting in an auditorium. I could pick out individual instruments clearly with enough space between them instead of everything blending together. That wide soundstage gives the Bunny a very different and honestly lovely listening experience. So if you are someone who wants clean vocals, excellent imaging and a wide spacious presentation, the Bunny does a really good job. Just don't expect it to give you that deep, thumpy bass that a bass head is probably looking for. And this is where the app actually makes the Bunny more interesting. There are a lot of tweaking options including EQ presets shared by other users, official presets, and the option to create and share your own EQ. I personally spent quite some time playing around with these, but surprisingly, I kept coming back to the default official preset. It's not flat, and that's what actually I like about it. This preset brings out a little more sub bass and mid bass, but without changing the overall character of the IEM or suppressing the mids and highs. The bass complements the entire track rather than taking over it. So if you enjoy that kind of tuning where the bass adds some weight and warmth to the music, but you don't necessarily want that thumpy, overpowering bass, I think you'll really like this preset. And honestly, I have been enjoying the TANCHJIM Bunny quite a lot. It actually grew on me while I was testing it. The more music I listened to, the more I started appreciating what it's trying to do. It's not an IM that's trying to impress you with massive bass. Instead, it's the clarity, vocals, separation, and that wide soundstage that's slowly starting to win you over. So, coming to the overall sound signature, the TANCHJIM Bunny has a bright and clean sound signature with enough sub bass to make sure you don't miss out on the low end. But to be precise, this is not thumpy bass. And personally, I like this tuning. The mids are kind of the highlight here. Vocals feel forward and clear, while the highs add enough energy to make the track enjoyable without becoming harsh or causing listening fatigue. The soundstage is also quite wide and the imaging is genuinely impressive. You can easily get a sense of where different sounds are coming from, and when you combine that with the wide soundstage, the overall experience becomes quite immersive. What I really like about the Bunny is that it isn't just about sound quality. You get lightweight and comfortable IEM shells, a microphone, a one button controller, USB-C connectivity and DSP customization all in one package. So it feels like a really good combination of practicality, clean and enjoyable sound quality. For video content, my experience with the TANCHJIM Bunny has been really enjoyable. I watched several YouTube videos and also watched episodes of Reacher on Prime Video, and the Bunny handled both really well. The dialogue sounded clear, the background score had enough presence, and the imaging is actually very good. You can clearly feel the left and right channels, which makes the overall viewing experience more immersive. And if you have watched Reacher, you know there's no shortage of gunshots, fights, and action. What I really liked was how easily I could distinguish all these sounds. The gunshots, background score, dialogues, and sound effects didn't feel like they were fighting for attention. And throughout my watching sessions, I never really felt the need to lower the volume because something sounded too sharp or overwhelming. Everything felt nicely balanced. So between music and video content consumption, the TANCHJIM Bunny has been really enjoyable IM for me. It's clear, spacious, has good imaging, and most importantly, it makes you want to keep listening. Now, I also tested the TANCHJIM Bunny DSP for gaming and I played several matches of BGM because I didn't want to judge it just after one game. I even played around with the gaming EQ in the app and compared it with the normal preset. But honestly, the difference wasn't significant enough to change my experience. For gaming, I wouldn't recommend the Bunny DSP. The overall volume felt quite low, and while the direction of the gunshots was pretty accurate and I could locate footsteps reasonably well, they didn't really help me much during an actual match. The biggest issue was the footstep volume. Footsteps were too quiet and some of the sound effects felt slightly muffled or seemed to blend into everything else that was happening. Because of that, I couldn't easily pick up footsteps when I needed to. And in a game like BGMI, it's a pretty big disadvantage. Now, if you're a casual gamer who plays occasionally, I don't think this will be a deal breaker. You can still play and enjoy the game. But I've played quite a few competitive matches, and when you're relying on those tiny audio cues to figure out where an enemy is before you see them, the Bunny DSP just didn't give me the confidence I wanted. So for music, I really enjoyed the Bunny, but for gaming, it's a miss for me. I also used the inline microphone for several calls, and honestly, it's good enough for regular calls. My voice came through clearly, and the person on the other side also sounded clear. I didn't face any issues during calls, and there were no complaints about my voice either. So, for everyday calling, the microphone gets the job done really well. But instead of just telling you how it sounds, here's a sample recorded directly to the TANCHJIM Bunny's microphone so you can judge the quality for yourself. This is a microphone sample I'm recording from the TANCHJIM Bunny DSP's microphone, and I'm standing in my balcony. Let me know how do I sound. Now it's time for pros and cons. Pros: excellent clarity, wide soundstage, very impressive imaging, forward and clear mids, comfortable and lightweight, good build quality, good microphone, USB-C with built-in DSP, multiple EQ presets, community EQ forum, customizable sound, great for music and video consumption. Cons: bass isn't very thumpy, competitive gaming performance isn't great, footsteps can feel too quiet, no volume controls on the inline controller, EQ customization feels unnecessarily complicated, app DSP compatibility is limited to Android and Windows. I have genuinely enjoyed using the TANCHJIM Bunny DSP, and I think the biggest compliment I can give it is that it actually grew on me while I was testing it. It's not the IEM I would pick if I wanted massive bass. It's also not something I would recommend specifically for competitive gaming, but for music, movies, YouTube, and everyday listening, I think the Bunny gets a lot right. The combination of the lightweight and comfortable shells, good build quality, microphone, controller, USB-C connectivity and DSP customization makes it feel like a very practical package. And then you have that wide soundstage, impressive imaging, excellent clarity and really good vocal presentation. At around Rs 2600, the TANCHJIM Bunny is competing in a very interesting segment, especially if you're looking for a Type-C IE with built-in DSP. If you enjoy bass that complements the track rather than completely taking over it, and you value clarity and an immersive listening experience, I think you'll really enjoy the Bunny. If you are an Android or Windows user looking for a comfortable Type-C IEM mainly for music and content consumption, the Bunny makes a lot of sense. Just make sure you're okay with the Android and Windows only app compatibility. For me, the TANCHJIM Bunny is a really enjoyable everyday IEM that's much better suited to music and content consumption than competitive gaming. And honestly, after spending this much time with it, I can say that this is one I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Thanks to the audio store for sending this over for review. I have dropped the links in the description below and the pinned comment. Make sure to check it out. So here I end my video. See you guys in the next one. TechNutso signing off.